Okay, so this project is about, have to interview 3 people who are finding bliss through their careers.
Okay.
And I've always really liked history and been into history. So the first question I have for you is, what job do you currently hold, and what kind of tasks are associated with this job?
Okay, well, I'm the curator here at the Museum of the Admiral,
Mm-hmm.
and what I am tasked with is taking care of the whole collection. We have 260,000 artifacts here. Responsible for all those, maintaining them, stabilizing, conserving them. Also responsible for all the exhibit writing, all the exhibits that we have currently on display. We write those, we do all the research, we found all the graphics, and then we also learn more about artifacts, whether we were borrowing them or people are donating us for the exhibit. We're also in charge of any questions that the general public has on any particular artifact or any research or any general history question,
Mm-hmm.
or a question on how to conserve or stabilize an artifact. Just any type of question that the general public can come up with. We're responsible for answering those also.
Okay. Where did you attend college, and what degree did you obtain?
I have a degree from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I have a degree in anthropology.
Okay. What jobs have you had over the years?
I've been here, it'll be 10 years in July.
Okay.
Before I came here, I worked for an archaeology company for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we always look at that as archaeology being the very beginning of artifacts when they're first recovered out of the ground, and then you hope that their very last place would be in the museum. So I've worked at the beginning and ending of an artifact's life.
Oh, cool. And what is your overall career goal?
Right now, just to stay right here. As working in a state institution, it's always good to have some type of aspiring goals of how far you can move up. This is probably about as far as I can move up in this institution here.
Mm-hmm.
We have a parent organization. It's the Museum of History in Raleigh.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there are curators there, and then there are more higher curators, and then you go up into being collections manager. Some museums, they separate the two. They separate collections and curation.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas collections, you're also responsible for all the artifacts. Curation, you're doing all the research and writing for exhibits to display the artifacts. But here, there's one curator, and we do all of those things.
Okay.
Which I think is a little better in some sense that you have all different topics you're writing about, but it takes longer to write something because no longer, well, for example, at the Museum of History, they'll have curators in each simple topic, like you have agriculture, you have sports, you have military, and so they are have expertise in certain areas, and you have decorative arts one, you have clothing. Here, we don't have that, so when we tasked with an exhibit, for example, I had to write one on the Civil War several years ago. I did not like the Civil War, never liked the Civil War. Didn't know anything about it because I didn't particularly care too much about it. So it took me a long time to research and write it because I didn't know anything about it. And now as I go farther and further along in my career, it's more and more different topics that I have to learn to write about. And I try to get various people's opinions. Right now I'm working on one on kites for like elementary age students. So my youngest daughter, she'll be 10 in a couple weeks. And so I've geared it toward her age, so I will ask her to read the exhibit to make sure that she can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And if she does not, then I know I need to go in and change some words around and explain. Like, for example, the word meteorologist.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of read over it, but without someone telling her what it meant, she would just skip right by. So I put weatherman in parentheses and things like that. And there was something where we talked about Marco Polo being one of the first people to sort of record kites being used. And some people don't know who Marco Polo is, so in this little parentheses I put, he's the one you call out to when you're playing your games in the pool, Marco Polo. So things like that. So sometimes we write for adults, sometimes we write for kids. This is my first exhibit writing for children, but I think it's helpful that I have someone I can run all these ideas off of.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't understand it and doesn't like it, then I know a lot of the kids won't.
Yeah. In what way do you want to grow? What plans do you have for the future and future goals?
Right now, where I'm kind of at in my career life, I'm sort of in a steady spot. A state job right now or any job right now is hard to find and hard to keep. So I'm just kind of good with where I am, that I have a job. And I really don't have any, I'm kind of at a spot where I did grow in the company, in this institution here. I was lower down when I first started here, so I moved up. So right now I just feel like I'm on a steady pace with where I am, with the age of my kids, and maybe as they get older, I might want to kind of broaden and get them out of college, then maybe I can go do some other things, but this is kind of where I am right now. And that's where I see myself being. Sometimes as you grow older, your aspirations kind of change from what you want to what your children want. And so right now I'm kind of focusing on what they want, whether it's going to softball games, or whether it's going to gymnastics, or whether it's saving for college for them. So, but I have to know that I have to have a job, so I try to do my best at the one I'm at.
Okay.
So I don't know if that answers the question for you, but that's kind of, I'm not really planning on going anywhere right this minute.
So you talked about the process of starting lower down here at the museum in Albemarle. Can you tell me about that process and like the different jobs and how you worked your way up?
Well, when I first, I had always wanted to work at the museum ever since I was little. And I worked for an archaeology company. There was one in Tarboro, and I worked there. And the museum used to be in a smaller building that I'm sure you passed by on your way here. It's the building right next to the Trade Mart on Highway 17. Before you come into town, it's a little brick building that our gallery, that building could fit inside of our gallery. So since the museum started in 1967, we've been around 50 years as a birthday. Next year I'm going to be writing a 50-year birthday exhibit. I'm writing that now, actually. But, so when they moved to the new museum in 2006, they had a few jobs opening because the museum, of course, is a lot bigger. They're going to be tasked with a lot more things. And so I applied for the job in January. But the way state system works sometimes, I didn't actually get it start till July 1st. So it was a long time. And when I did start that job, it was working in between the collections and the design department, which the collections chose the artifacts that they wanted to use. Then my job as a collection specialist was what my title was, to make sure the artifacts were clean, make sure they were stable, make sure I found information about the artifact, and make sure I had the right type of material to mount it in an exhibit, and what type of artifacts could go on with it. So I was in between the two departments. And I didn't really ever expect to go anywhere anytime soon with that position. However, the curator that was here, he died in 2009, and so that opened up a position. Before he died, he was quite sick, and so we had been sort of filling in and doing all sorts of tasks while he was out. And so I just applied for his job, not thinking that I would ever get it. But I had been here about 3 years then, so I sort of knew what was going on and knew how to do a job. And more and more exhibits I get, the more and more artifacts I research, I learn more and more. So I think it's a continually learning more. I would say that I'm learning things almost every day because there are new topics and new questions people come up with, and people call in and say, well, we would like to donate this thing to you. I have no idea what it is. Let me look to see what it is first, and then I'll see if we have one like it, and then see what we can use it for. So I started out a little bit lower than what I am currently now. But when a small organization, you don't have too many jobs. There's only there's 11 of us here. 11 full-time people.
Wow.
So, and there's only particularly one of like each type of person. So you don't have a huge group. Like for the collections department, there's only 2 full-time people. Myself and the person who took the job that I left to get this one. In education, there's 2 people. In facilities maintenance, there's 3. In administration, there's 2. In design, there's 2. I think that's everybody,
Not a lot of openings.
Not a lot. Very rarely is there openings, and then as a thing that actually there is an opening. Someone left yesterday. So we will be posting a job. And then we do have another posting where someone left in December. We haven't filled that position yet. So it's very rare that people leave. But the jobs that you do, they're so expandable. You're doing almost lots of different things because there's not enough people. The state, unfortunately, still is kind of broke. And so we did originally start out with 21 when they opened the building here. And now we're down to 11. So doing the same jobs, even actually more. We have more gallery spaces, and we have more things that we do with half the people.
Oh my goodness.
So you're always doing something, which is, it's kind of good because you're always busy and you're always doing something different and you're not doing the same thing. But then again, sometimes you feel like you have too much to do because you're doing ultimately two people's job and then sometimes one not.
Yeah. Wow. As a high school senior, what were your plans for the future? How have these plans changed over time?
They're about the same. When I graduated high school,
That's the first answer I've gotten like that.
Like I said, I wanted to work here. I wanted to be an archaeologist. I wanted to be a secretary too. I did that for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I wanted to work in a museum, an archaeologist secretary, and I've done all those things. But I think I need to add something else to my list. That way I feel like I want to do something else. I want to be a doctor too, but I don't like blood that much.
Oh.
I don't think that's going to work out for me. So, but I think if you always have something else on your list that you would like to do. So, this is kind of what I thought I would be doing. Hoping I would be doing.
Yeah.
So, and I found out my oldest daughter, her main goal in life is to be my boss. And then my youngest daughter, her main goal is to be her boss.
Really?
So I believe that we're all going to be working here one day, and I will be at the very bottom, the ladder. So that's their ultimate goals, which is good. But I would say that they're the most knowledgeable kids that I know who know anything about history. I mean, we have an exhibit on Louis Comfort Tiffany downstairs. And we went to the Chrysler Museum last weekend. And they knew tons more than any other child their age would even know about Tiffany because they would always hear me talk about it. When I'm researching and writing, I would tell them what's going on. And so they would go, oh, that's a Lotus Pagoda lamp. And this is this and this and this and this and that.
Wow.
So it's very interesting. However, sometimes they found that they're at a disadvantage for knowing more information. My oldest child did an exhibit on, not exhibit, but for History Day. She did it on, what is it, like undiscovered clues. And that was the theme, I believe, and she chose to do it on the Lost Colony. Well, as you know, you've probably been reading that the Lost Colony could happen to be in Bertie County now. So, but anyway, the main person working on that dig, he's actually an employee here. And so we had first-hand information and photographs and all that as to what he was finding, but the problem was that no one was really believing her.
Yeah.
Like, no, that is true.
Yeah.
And then another year she did a couple other things, and she was able to come in and use the collections that we have and use the graphics that we have, which are all public domain since we're a state-owned institution, but people don't know they can use it. So she had more things that any other person would be accessible to, and I don't think some of teachers believe that either. It's like, no, look, her mom works at a history museum.
Yeah.
She can, all these things are out there, you just have to know where to find them.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sometimes it's a disadvantage.
If you could go back and change anything from the past regarding college and your career, would you? If so, what would you change and why?
I always want to be an Egyptologist, always. Other than working in the museum here too, that was another thing I wanted. So I took a lot of classes in Egypt, archaeology, Egypt, archaeology, Greece, and I kind of wish I went that route, but it's too hot over there, I think. Not that it's not hot here in the summertime, but I think as my kids get older, that's one of the things that we're all going to go and do together.
That'd be fun.
We're all going to go over there. I'm going to go to England first, and then we're going to go to Egypt and do some of the things that I wanted to do. And some things that they wanted to do.
Okay. And what is the best part of your job?
Let's see. I have a good parking spot. I don't have to pay to park. The best part, I think, is, like I said, there's always something different, always something new to learn. And I feel like as I'm learning things, I want to share it with people. Like I was telling you when I did the Civil War exhibit, I didn't want to do it all on military and all the battles and everything. Well, so I did it on the home front and what women and children were doing during that time period. And I learned so much that I felt like, oh, the public's going to want to know this, going to want to know this. Sometimes it's hard for me to distinguish what I think people would like to know versus, well, I certainly didn't know that. So any, like a visitor who does not have a big knowledge of that topic, they wouldn't know that either. So if you look at the Louis Comfort Tiffany exhibit, I knew nothing about Tiffany glass, nothing. We have over $2.5 million of glass sitting down there, and I knew nothing on it. So it was very neat to go and learn all sorts of things, and then learn and to put what I learned in just a few words. Because, like, for example, if you're doing an artifact label on this pen, well, everybody can see it's a pink pen, but what type of information are you going to add to it? Because the visitor's only going to really look at it just for a couple of seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is the most important thing about this pen? And then you got to write it in the fewest concise words as you can.
Yeah.
It's probably the most important thing is that it works.
Yeah.
So that's hard when you know all this information about something. It's like, gosh, well, how can I get it all so the public can read it? I know they're not going to stand there and read a paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
How do I put what I found the most interesting and put it